and welcome to Love's a Pitch, a podcast where I talk to people about their love lives and what they're looking for, try to make some connections in the queer community, and sometimes end up making a new friend for myself. I'm your host, Carolyn Bergier, and that is what happened with this week's guest. I had so much fun interviewing this person that we immediately made plans to hang out. And since recording this, that hangout actually happened. And I can confirm, maybe I should do this with everybody that I haven't met before, is meet them, and then I can let you know, verified, a great catch. So let's get right into it. Today I'm here with Phil, Corin. Phil, I am so excited to be talking to you today, as I said when we got on the Zoom, but I'm going to say it again now. This is very exciting. I think you do a lot of great stuff. Thanks for coming to Love's a Pitch.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I had to think to myself, am I ready to pitch myself publicly? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Let's do this.
And if you're not, it's too late. No.
True that.
Well, before we get into your pitch, Phil, how do you identify?
So I identify as non-binary. I consider myself of trans experience. I don't necessarily call myself trans, but I am of trans experience. I am more masculine leaning on the non-binary spectrum. But you know what? I just like being called Phil. If you need an identifier, I can give you one, but just call me Phil.
Great. All right. Well, with that, let's get into your pitch.
Okay. So I thought about this pitch a little bit because I was like, I don't know how to pitch myself. And what I decided is I would think about what my friends would say about me. I feel like that's a good way to approach this. So I think my friends would say about me that I'm kind, I'm funny, I'm wise, I have an open heart, I'm very warm, I can be a bit rigid. I think that's my Capricorn nature. We have to grow into things. But the good news about my rigidity is that I am aware of it and I am working at it. I'm working on it and I'm doing a lot better at pushing myself. And I've seen situations where I've been rigid and softened a little bit and found so much growth on the other side of that. So I'm doing a lot better at being more of a flexible human. I think something that anyone that knows me would say about me is that I'm always on a quest to learn more about myself. I'm a human that is really interested in understanding myself and evolving and up-leveling as a human. As just my personal development is a huge part of my life. And if you like talking about personal development, if you like asking yourself questions and, being aware of who you are and how you exist in the world, I think you'll love talking to me because that's where I live. I live in the deep end of the pool where it's just like, oh my goodness, my parental sort of like influence has influenced me in this way, and I want to shift that. I'm always thinking about how I can be better, how I can, exist in the world in a better way, and not just for myself, but for others. I think they would also say that I'm somebody who, everyone knows this about me, I love birds. I get lots of laughs when I talk about the birds. Birds are my jam. Okay, I love birds. Birds of all sizes, shapes. Yes, give pigeons a break. They are birds too. I love birds. I love nature. And I think I would say that I'm a really good communicator. I love to communicate with people. I love to, when I'm dating someone, have experiences with them and, again, try to push myself into things that might feel uncomfortable at first, but, I try to grow into. And I think the last thing I'd say is, like, I'm the person that most of my people come to when they want good advice. I'm always happy to give advice, and I think I give very good advice. But like I mentioned before, since I'm also someone who wants to learn, I don't want to be the person who, when I'm in a relationship with someone, is just teaching. I want to make sure that I can learn as well. Like I always want to dance in my relationships, right? It's like, it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You take care of me, I take care of you. I want to flow and a dance and a nice ease in my relationships.
Wow. Phil, I love all of this. There's so much here. In addition to all the stuff that you mentioned before the interview that I want to talk about.
We only have an hour.
I know. Where do I start? I kind of want to start with birds. I think so there's a Diking Out episode that's all about birds. It's Diking Out about birds. My wife and I, we love birds, and we just got back from Disney. So we were in Disney to surprise my nephews who were there, and we thought it'd be fun to just show up. And at Animal Kingdom, there are so many birds, and there's like a bird show, and the birds are trained, and they're just fascinating. Fascinating creatures.
Oh my God. That's my happy place.
Yes.
I just feel like birds I think people do not give them the due they deserve. Birds are fascinating. They're so intelligent. They're intelligent animals. And their intelligence evolved differently than ours did, but they're still super intelligent. It's like.
What's your favorite bird?
I think I love the northern cardinal. Like, everyone, I'm sure people have seen it. It's like a red bird, right? It's like the males are red and the females are brown. I think it's because I had a period in my life where I was actually feeding one that it sort of became a pet. So I was living in Prospect Heights, and I decided to put some birdseed out in my windowsill, and I started to get all these birds, and I realized I was getting the same sort of family of birds over and over again. So this bird and I developed this relationship to the point where he and his wife decided it was okay to leave their young on my windowsill while they just foraged all day. And I was working from home at the time, and I was like, guys, you cannot leave your kids here. They cried all day long. I can't feed them, and now I have to listen to it all day long. Guys,
you're not unpaid childcare. What's going on, birds?
That's right. I became a surrogate parent to a freaking bird, and without consent, they just left these birds there. It was really crazy.
That's so funny. My wife was trying to train a blue jay in our backyard, and she was leaving these peanuts out for it. And I was getting really anxious about it because I'm like, I don't like the idea of you leaving peanuts outside because the bird's not the only thing that's going to get them. Then I started finding these peanuts in other places in the yard. And then I found the peanuts hidden away in places in our house.
You know what that means?
And it was attracting mice, and the mice were taking the peanuts. And I'm like, that's it. You're not a Disney princess. You're not training the birds.
Project Feed Blue Jay is ended.
I know, but now that she just saw that bird show, she's like, I'm going to start training them again. I'm like, no, those are professionals. Please don't.
Yeah, you're gonna have a problem in your hands. And also, blue jays are notoriously like aggressive. The birds, those are not birds to play with. I've seen blue jays attack cats.
Oh, gosh.
So I just want you to know, just be careful.
Oh, my God. Okay, I'm going to have to relay that information.
Yeah, so now you know. Just be careful. Pick a less aggressive bird if you're going to go for it.
So you also mentioned being rigid, and you attribute that to being a Capricorn. I'm also a Capricorn.
Oh, sorry if I've offended you.
No, I just said I was curious because I guess I've never thought of, not to make this about me, but I've never thought of myself as being rigid, but I want you to expand on that because maybe I'm going to realize something about myself here.
Well, first of all, I don't think all Capricorns are rigid. I definitely think that there is this sort of, misconception that Capricorns in general are rigid. I don't think they are all rigid. I think that I happen to have some Capricorn rigidity in me in that it just takes me a minute to grow into something that is unfamiliar and new. But it becomes a problem when, as I mentioned earlier, when you want to be someone who grows and is changing and really embraces that, you have to push past the rigidity to get to that. A lot of the growth and a lot of the reward is on the other side of the rigidity. So while I have to push past that, I still have it there. And, I watched myself. I mean, one of the things I should mention is that I am 54 years of age, right? So it's not like I'm a new person. I have lived 54 years. I know myself. I know that I can tend to shut down an idea that is, might be good for me at first. And then I have to stop for a minute and be like, wait a minute, actually, should I just soften a little bit and like consider this? And I found that every time I do that, there's some wonderful growth there, incredible growth. So yeah. Not every Capricorn's rigid, but I can tend to be at times.
My co-host on Diking Out was also a Capricorn, and I feel like if she was listening to this, she would be like, Carolyn, you're rigid. Because she would always suggest these changes. I'm like, no, it's not broken. Let's, why make a change if it's not broke? But then eventually I'd be like, you know what? You're right. Let's give it a try.
Listen, it's not a bad thing. I mean, it does keep you safe in some respect, but in sometimes you have to just be like, okay, I gotta stop. I gotta push past this.
And in terms of personal development, what have been some of the most helpful tools for you? Like, is there a certain book that really changed things?
No, I think for me, personal development, a lot of how it came to unfold for me is meditation. I think meditation, which is this period of the day where I get to stop everything, not have my phone in front of me or my computer, or, I'm not engaging with the world in any way, and I just sort of go inward. I feel like that's kind of where a lot of my understanding, my learnings have come from. It makes me more attuned to when I'm walking through the world, something I need to pay attention to that is going to contribute to that personal development. I think meditation's like made all the difference. Meditation and some sort of spirituality has really changed how much I've learned about myself and how easy it is to learn about myself.
And is there a certain type of meditation that you do? Like, do you listen to an app?
I can tell you, for me, I can go between sometimes just sitting in a quiet space by myself, and then sometimes I like guided meditations, like when I'm trying to like work on something, manifestations and things of that sort. So it can go back and forth. It really just depends on where I am in the day. And I think that I have a routine in the morning that really, I think, lends itself to all of this. And it involves waking up, meditating, journaling, and then maybe working out. Like, I feel like all of that is my meditation.
Yes, love a morning routine. That sounds great.
I see. This is where I get very Capricorn. I'm like, don't mess with that routine. The entire thing is like a Jenga. You just pull that one slot out. It's like everything's going to start toppling.
So if you're dating someone, they need to respect the morning routine.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, I've had a conversation about this recently, and I realized that, again, this is where you have to have a little like balance, because it's like you can't be super rigid about the routine all the time.
Right.
You have to understand that, if you're dating someone, you may find yourself in a situation where you can't adhere to the routine here and there. But again, I'm also 54, and that means something a little different from somebody who's younger, because I need the routine not just for my sanity and for, like I mentioned, personal development. I also need it for health. So it's really important to me that I don't stray from it too often, because it is keeping me healthy. I have diseases in my family that I have to be very aware of, like high blood pressure and diabetes on both sides of my family. And when you get older, it's like you can't get away with it as the drinking and the hanging out and all that. You can't get away with that as well as you could when you were younger. So the routine is in place for a number of reasons. And although I'm willing to, stray from it here and there, I do want to make it the rule and not the exception.
Yeah. So if there's a cutie in your bed in the morning and she wants to cuddle with you, at what point do you start getting anxious and thinking, I really need to be journaling right now?
This is a really good question. You are asking great questions. Okay. I mean, I've had to deal with this. Okay. Well, I'm not going to lie. This cutie in my bed, the journaling goes out the window. That goes out the window. Well, this is why I'm like,
you have your priorities straight.
Oh, I do have my priorities straight. I mean, come on. It's like I can go through long stretches of being single. So when I am with somebody, I'm just like, okay, got to find that balance. Maybe no journaling today. It'll happen tomorrow.
Oh, with that, let's talk about your dating journey. What's been going on?
Yeah. So, when I reached out to you in the show, I mentioned that I recently did a dating workshop. And I think that I got to a place in my journey where I was like, you know what, I need to think about how I've been dating and how it hasn't been working for me. Like, I realized that maybe there was something I wasn't doing that was working, right? I mean, otherwise, maybe would I be single? Would I not be dating? I was online. I followed this one woman who's a dating coach, and she's incredible. Francesca Hoagie, who is awesome, just awesome. She's like a dating coach. And I signed up for her mailing list, and I would get all these mailings from her. And one mailing was like 60-day love activation. And it's for people who just weren't dating. Like, it's specifically targeted to people who just were like, no, dating, no. And I think I was there. I think I was just like, absolutely not. After that last relationship I was in, I was like, nope, I'm not doing this. I may never do this again. I may have to opt out of this. I mean, I just want to unsubscribe from dating.
Right.
If dating was a mailing list, I am unsubscribing possibly for life. I was just like, no. And after some time passed, I realized, okay, is that realistic? Like, am I really just never going to date again? Like, come on, Phil, like, do better, right? Do better. And so I saw this mailing, and I think it just came through at the right time. It came through at a time when I was willing to be more, to look at myself and be like, wow, why did I just stop dating? Like, why did I remove that from my life? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to join this dating workshop. Maybe there's something to learn here. Maybe there's something that I can understand about what I'm doing wrong and why I feel so adamant about staying away from dating. And I have to tell you, it was just like incredible. I feel like I learned so many things. Even the first session we had, I had to think about the beliefs I had about dating. I had to think about like some of the sort of like background programming that was just running, you know, like subconsciously running in my head. So completely different to what I actually wanted. Because if I was honest with myself, of course I wanted to date. Of course I wanted to be in a relationship and being in partnership. But it was just like I was staying away from it. And I had to start to ask myself, why was I doing that? And what was making me so, like, here's the thing. I think if you decided you didn't want to date and you were like, yeah, no, dating's not for me right now. It's fine. But if you speak about dating in this way where you're so passionately against it, then you have to be like,
what's going on?
Bro, you gotta, something's up here. You gotta ask some questions. And I think that's what happened. I realized that I was being so adamant and so like old man with like, no dating. Like just really like shutting it down. And I was like, oh no, that's about something.
Was there something that, it sounds like there was an underlying issue that you were uncovering, but was there something that kind of flipped the switch for you? Like, was it just like one bad date too many? Was it a breakup?
Yeah, I think it was a breakup, and I think it was a breakup, but it's interesting because at the time of the breakup, I didn't feel that badly. I was like, okay, so this is ending. It is what it is. But I think it was after that breakup, I had time to sit with like what had happened in that relationship. And I was like, ooh, something didn't work out there and it wasn't good. And I felt like there were parts of the relationship that when I look back, I was like, this is a problem. Like, this is a problem that I have to look at. Like, there were things about this person that I was with, I felt like they said things, and I don't want to use the word attack, but they said things that were, to me, I felt a little offensive about parts of myself that I myself was not owning. So I feel like what I learned in that relationship is that if you go into a relationship and there are parts of yourself that you decide are not good enough, you want to just distance yourself. Like, I feel like we all have parts of ourselves some parts of ourselves that we really embrace and we love, and and you'll be like, oh, this is what I'm like. But there are other parts that we're just not as comfortable with. We're not happy owning those parts. If you don't own those parts are open and vulnerable to being attacked or hurt. And so when I left that relationship, I realized there were some parts of me that I wasn't owning that got hurt.
Yeah.
And I had to reclaim them. I had to bring them back in and be like, no, this is a package deal. And there are some parts that I have a problem with, but I still have to love it. I still have to own it and love it and bring it in. So that's why I was like, no dating after that, because I was like really trying to understand that.
And was this workshop, is it one-on-one coaching or is it like a group of people?
It's a group of people. I mean, she does one-on-one coaching. I think she may stop doing that, but this is a group of people who are also just just trying to understand why they weren't dating.
Yeah.
And I think we're sort of we're at the end of the workshop now. And I remember being on the call the other day and being like, wow, these people, like, I've seen these people for now almost not 60 days, but I guess it's over the course of like 8 weeks, right? And they're so different.
Yeah.
Like, I saw the difference in them. Like, everyone is just different. They've just softened. They seem lighter. Like, I could see the change.
Any cuties?
No, not for me. No, I feel like Listen, by the way, this is online, okay? So I'm like, I don't know where these people are. Like, no, I don't think anyone's thinking like that. Everyone's just like, no, we have to learn how to love again.
That's where my mind goes. I feel like, luckily, my parents were cool with me being gay, but had I been sent to like conversion therapy, I would have been like, all right, where are the cuties? Like any group you put me in, I'm just scanning the room, being like, all right.
I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I mean, listen, you're married, but you still have eyes. It's totally fine. I get it.
So what was the biggest change that you saw in yourself through this?
I just realized how false some of my beliefs were. That was a bit shocking. It was a bit shocking. Like,
beliefs about yourself or about dating?
I think about myself more so than dating, but about myself. Like, one of the things that she would say at the beginning was like, there's opportunities everywhere. I was like, what? I mean, come on. Opportunities everywhere today? And must have been the second week we were in a dating workshop, and I was walking down the street in my neighborhood, and I was walking past this woman, and she was checking me out. I saw her checking me out. I was like, and I'm not somebody who's just gonna be like, everyone's checking me out. This one was definitely checking me out.
Yeah.
So she's walking towards me, and I watched her looking at me, but I watched her trying not to look at me. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, so this is interesting. She looked at me, but then she's looking away, and I'm just watching her, but I'm observing her from the standpoint of like a podcast host per se, like something like that. Like, this is so interesting, human behavior. Like, I became David Attenborough, like, for some reason, and was like, humans in the wild, checking people out. So what I realized about myself in that moment was like, instead of being in the moment with that woman and just smiling at her, I got outside of the moment. I started analyzing the moment instead of being in the moment.
Right.
And if I hadn't, before the workshop, I wouldn't have realized I was doing that. And I must have done that many times.
Yes.
Just walking on the street. So I was like, just smile. It's not that deep. You don't have to be David Attenborough. Nobody needs to be watching BBC right now. Just smile.
So if that happened again, let's say, tomorrow, same thing happens. Let's say it's the same woman. Would you stop to, make conversation? Maybe.
I mean, I might, but I would smile.
Yeah.
I would at least smile. I would just give her like,
baby
like,
steps.
I see what you're doing, girl. I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing. And I would give her the side smile.
Yeah.
It's like, it works. It works for me. It's worked in the past. So I would give her the side smile, and she would probably freak out because she was having a hard time. Like, I could see it. She was really trying not to be in that. Like, I saw her. She was really trying not to be doing what she was doing. But I'm like, listen, it's happening. Let's just let it happen. It's fine.
How were you meeting people before, in terms of the people you've dated?
Well, I always meet people usually in person. I don't do dating apps. That's the other thing. So that's the other thing that I wanted to mention from, in the workshop. I was just like, is it okay if I don't date online? And she was like, sure, but you have to meet people in person, right? I don't like dating apps. I just do not like them. I don't think I represent myself best on dating apps. And I feel like I'm just better in person. I mean, with the pandemic, that became a lot harder, but like, it's just, for me, it's just better in person. I feel like the dating apps put a layer of like, I don't know what you're going to be like when I see you. Like, we can talk, we can do all this thing, but when we see each other, like, what's that like?
Yeah, I feel like anytime that I've met someone off an app, and not in a bad way, but it's never what I think it's going to be. Like, there's always these assumptions that you have, even in terms of like what they're going to look like, what their vibe is going to be. And then you can meet them and it's like their voice is something that you weren't expecting, or their demeanor, their energy or something.
Yes. And I think energy is a big part of that, because it's just like, you don't really know what energy you're getting until you're right in front of someone. And for me, it's just much better that like you meet me out. I'm with like people. I'm in a very, me state, just being naturally me. And I just like that better. I cannot do dating apps. I will not. I will not.
And how has dating changed for you over the decades?
Oh, that's a good question. I think this is about to get problematic, but I'm going to say it. I think I have to say, I feel like it's a little harder to find the date, what I'm looking for. I like femininity. I like femme women. It's just my thing. It's what I like. I've always liked it. I think that now there's a lot of folks are non-binary. A lot of people are like, there's I know we're erasing gender. Get it. Let's do it. That's fine. But like, I will always at the end of the day really just embrace loving femme women. Like, that is what I like. And I think that's gotten harder. I feel like it's harder to find them. I'm like, where are they? It's like an endangered species. Where are they?
That's so funny because I feel like so many more people are fluid, not just with gender, but with their sexuality. Whereas I think there's a lot more femme women because so many more women are bisexual. And in my experience, most bisexual women lean femme.
So I love what you're saying. I love it. But I will say this. I think, so then that's a me problem, right? Because it's like, it's not that I wouldn't, I think in the past, I would have been very careful about dating a bisexual woman. I think now, I think I'd be a lot more open to it. I think there was a time when I was like, no, this person, like, I'm not sure if I want to get into partnership with this person, what is it going to be like? But I feel like it's a pretty ignorant standpoint to take, actually. And I feel like I've opened up in that, but I don't even know where the bisexual women are. I'm like, where are they? I'm like, please make yourself known. I would love to see.
Yeah, that's the other thing with, I mean, all of the bisexual women that I've dated or hooked up with, I want to say has been through apps because, and like from what I know through conversations with my friends who are bisexual and everything, so many, like a high percentage of bisexual women are partnered with men, right? Because it's just easier because they might not be used to being the ones who ask women out. They might be worried of like how they're perceived in the queer community. There's like a lot of anxiety for them around that. They're not sure how to find other like queer women, that kind of stuff. Whereas men are out there, salivating and, shooting their shot from their car windows.
You're so right.
So it's like easier.
Men will shoot their shot anywhere. Wow, it's fascinating.
One time I was at a red light and my window was down and these guys on a patio at the bar on the corner yell out to me and they're like, hey, come join us. And I'm like on my way to work and I get to work and I asked this guy, Jim, that I worked with, who was just like the dudest of dudes, just like typical, just like dad football watching, And I'm like, Jim, you got to explain this to me. Do these guys really think I'm going to be like, you know what? Forget where I'm going. I'm going to pull over and join these men. And he said, look, if it works 1 out of 100 times, that's great. Then it worked. It doesn't hurt them at all if you keep driving. Worst case scenario, you just drive off. Best case scenario, you join them.
Honestly, I think Jim's answer was dead on.
Yeah.
If it works 1 time out of 100, let's just keep it going.
Right. So that's what I think with like guys who catcall and things like that. It's like,
fascinating.
You know what?
Fascinating.
There's, what is it? A lid for every pot. And maybe some women, respond to the catcall and it just takes that one time.
Well, listen, I've dated girls who've dated guys, right?
Yeah.
And one of the first conversations we have is just like how usually, I mean, I don't want to say this is a rule, but like the ones I've dated, it's usually this conversation of like how much cooler it is to be dating me because I treat them with respect. And I'm like, well, geez, that's like a basic thing with everyone I date. And a lot of the queer people I know are like that. But it's just so interesting because I'm always like, it's hard because I'm just like, I don't want you to think that what I do is special and great. Like, I don't want that to happen. I'm like, you need to know that this is not special or great. This is baseline.
Right.
And it's only going to get better from here. like, this is baseline. I just want you to know that. This is not like amazing baseline. That's always an interesting conversation.
Yeah. It's tough because you don't want to, stereotype any group. And of course, there are plenty of toxic queer folks and like people who treat people awfully, and we hate that. But it is something that you notice, or at least also like, you know, I have my share of queer friends who tend to, their type is quote unquote straight women. So they'll often be like the first woman that somebody's dated, and they will always comment how their girlfriends are always like so used to like having to play games, or so used to thinking the masculine person in the relationship doesn't have emotions or doesn't know how to express them. So it's always like this weird conditioning that they have that they feel like they have to kind of like work to undo and be like, no, you don't have to do that with me.
Right. Right. I mean, maybe there's an episode here where you just focus on that, because I think I want to hear that. I just want to hear all the things and like hear all the standpoints on this, because it's fascinating. It's a really interesting topic that I don't think people are talking about enough.
Yeah. So what's your type, your ideal type? If you were on a dating app and you had to fill out, let's say, put some filters on this.
Yeah. Okay. So I think definitely femme presenting, right? That's big for me. But I think at the end of the day, it really is somebody that is kind of good for that dance that I sort of mentioned. So first of all, before anything, I have to say this, and I know it's weird that I have to say this, but I feel like I've dated people in the past that I couldn't believe were like this. Like, you have to have basic kindness. You have to be a kind person. I cannot do people who are not kind. That is like such a deal breaker for me. Like, you have to treat people well.
Yeah.
You must do that. Okay. And I know that it's weird that I have to say that, but like, I feel like I've been with people in the past where it's just like, are you serious right now? Are you like, you must treat everyone, random strangers, you know, I mean, I get having a bad day. I get people, you know, pissing you off. That's a different thing, but you must, as a general rule, just be a kind person. Like, please, like, treat people respectfully. I think that's big for me. I think also, in terms of age, I don't like, age is pretty open for me. You know, I can't go super, super young, but I feel like it's always about how the energy plays together. So I would think somebody who has similar energy to me, somebody who's like warm and open-hearted is big. And also somebody who is very self-aware, like somebody who understands who they are. They know who they are. They can communicate that. They're not finding it out along the way. I mean, we're all finding things out, but I mean, someone who has a basic good understanding of who they are, because I've dated people who didn't. And what I found was what they thought, they didn't understand what it is they wanted, right? They were finding it out in surprise, as I was. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like, we were finding out together. I'm like, what? You don't know? Like, you didn't know this? So I think somebody who's very self-aware is big. I like people who love laughter and fun and, you know, new experiences and travel and like a good meal. I enjoy a good meal, you know, and some live music. I think those things would be high on my list.
What kind of live music do you like to see?
To be honest with you, I don't like big concerts. So yeah, I love going to a classical concert. Like, I love doing that. Like, it is like one of the things that like just makes my heart just like burst open. Something about a good classical concert is great. You know, like a jazz concert. I mean, I'll go see singer-songwriters and various things, but it just needs to be on a smaller scale. I just don't like large concerts. It's just like drives me nuts. I don't like large crowds in general. Right.
Especially in New York. I mean, to go to there's nothing enjoyable about it.
No, it's not. It just stresses me out. Yeah. It's like, when are we getting out? I'm just not enjoying it. But when I'm in a smaller scale, like, I know that for a while I was going to a lot of the candlelight concerts.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they're at churches and they're so nice. It's just, I went to some incredible concerts where they're like, you know, quartets or various things. I like a smaller concert, just something intimate. The genre doesn't matter as much. I mean, I'm not so big into country or, you know, bluegrass or any of that stuff, but pretty much almost anything else, just on a smaller scale, is great.
Do you have a go-to date spot, like a restaurant that you like to go to?
I don't think I do right now, and I think that I'm still exploring some places, but I really do love a speakeasy vibe. Like I love a saddle up to a bar, nice lighting. Like I love that kind of experience, and just getting to know someone. Like I love the idea of just being like quality time, like really having a nice intimate place to talk. So I feel like there are a lot of places in New York that are like that, but I can't say I have an actual go-to at this point.
There is a bar I will recommend. They call it a speakeasy to me. It's not like a real there's no like knocking on the door and saying the password or anything like this, but
where is it?
As a queer person, it's in the West Village, and it's called Do Not Disturb, and it's right by
there.
You've been there?
I have many years ago, so long ago. It's been a while since I've been. That place was great.
Yeah, so it's right by the Cubby Hole, and I think they just like redid it recently, but my wife and I were like,
so it's still there.
Yeah. My wife and I were leaving the Cubby Hole, and this queer masc person was just kind of sitting on the steps. I didn't even know there was a bar there, and they were smoking a joint, and I kind of gave them the nod, like, yeah, we're queer too, and and they were like, hey, do you want to check out my speakeasy? I said, okay. So they took us downstairs and like gave us a tour and gave us drinks on the house. And it was so nice. And now I'm recommending it to everybody, because if the date doesn't go well, just go over to Cubby Hole and see what's happening there.
Wait, is it run by a queer person?
I don't know who runs it. This person was just a bartender. I shouldn't say just a bartender, but they were working as a bartender there, but they seemed like very involved. Like they helped create the menu, create some of the drinks and stuff. So
that is my next date spot then. I didn't even know that was still around, and that is my vibe.
Yeah. It was like good music, like good, like sexy lighting and stuff. So I recommend that one.
That is my vibe.
Nice.
So that is that's something at the top of my list right now. So
Great.
Thank you for that.
What's the longest relationship that you've been in?
Oof. Okay, so I was married for several years. We were married for probably like 10 years, but I feel like the relationship itself was about 18 years.
Wow.
Oh yeah, no, I was in a long-term partnership. Like
wow.
I didn't think I would be single ever again. Like this was I met this person when I was like 28, and it ended, I would say, like 6 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a while. That's a very long span of time, right? So a lot of growth, a lot of, I'm such a different person from when I was in that relationship, and even from the 6 years that relationship ended.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Do you keep in touch with your ex at all?
I did say I was 54. No, no, we're not friends in that way. Like I had to get some things from her recently, and it's cordial, but like we're not in each other's lives that way, and that's fine. We don't need to be.
Yeah, same with me and I also have an ex-wife, but me being like, wow, because it didn't last that long. But yeah, sometimes I do think about how different my life is now than when I got together with that person. And it's just like living two very different lives.
It was, for me, I came out as being non-binary at the end of that relationship. So I had a lot of very huge transitions at the end of that relationship. A lot of things changed. And, the marriage being one of the biggest ones, but a lot changed for me. So I am a completely different person from when I was in that relationship. It's night or day, really is.
So you mentioned you've been going out on dates now since you started the workshop. How's that going?
Yeah, so I have been dating, and it's been going really nicely. I feel like I'm really enjoying it. It feels different because I feel like I'm approaching it differently. It feels more expansive in a sense because I feel like I'm approaching it with less, I think, to use one of my favorite words, rigidity. I'm approaching it with less rigidity. I'm trying to be a little more open. I feel like I'm softer in my approach, and it's nice. It's really nice. I mean, it just feels nice to be out and about and feeling. I feel what's changed is like I feel dateable. I didn't feel dateable at one point, and I feel dateable, and that has changed a lot. It's a weird thing to say that you would like you can feel dateable or not feel dateable. I feel dateable right now.
Love that.
Yeah, it's a nice change.
Do you go out to queer spaces to meet people? Are you going to bars or events or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I have been doing that. I went to a couple speed dating events recently. And it's interesting. I like going to speed dating events. I don't think there are a lot of people who enjoy speed dating, and I'm like, I like it because I like talking to people. I don't have to walk in there and feel like I need to walk out with dates. I walked out with friends one of my first speed dating events, and it was just nice to be there with other queer people. I've been locked away during the pandemic because I was living with an immunocompromised family member, so I hadn't been out a lot during the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
So now that I'm back out, which is my natural state because I was out all the time before the pandemic, it's just nice to be in queer spaces again. So I'm just picking that back up now and being in spaces, and I really enjoy being around my community. I love it. It's fun for me. I can be in those spaces with not feeling like I have to be dating or have to be, getting someone's number, and just being in the space and enjoying it. And that feels great.
Yeah. That was something too, coming out of the pandemic, was realizing how much time I hadn't been spending in queer spaces. And once we got vaccinated, it's like, let's change that.
Yeah. I missed it so much. And I didn't even realize it myself, but I had stopped going out. I just needed to be safe. But now I'm back out there. I'm trying not to be too crazy, but I am back out there again.
Now, some of the people listening I think most of them are thinking, gee, I really love hearing Phil talk. Well, you're a podcaster. We haven't talked about that yet. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Of course. Yeah, so I am a podcaster. I did a podcast for 4 years called Transition of Style. That was my podcast about gender identity and personal style. And that was my baby. I did that for 4 years, and we had guests on that we talked about gender identity and style and how those two things interact. So it was a great jumping off point for me to host the community to talk about these things, but also for me to hone my skills as someone who was an interviewer, right? And who interviewed people. And then I also started to do, I'm from Driftwood, as you know, with Andy Egan Thorpe and Alex Berg, who are some awesome humans.
Yes, for sure.
Did that for a while. And I also now do audiobook narration. So I use my voice quite a bit. My podcasting right now is more on the production side, but I'm using my voice a little more in audiobook narration more than hosting at this point. So yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I do a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
I love that. And how would you describe your style?
Oh, the way I dress?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I feel like I'm sort of re-exploring that right now. I think for a while I was really big on suits and dressing.
Dapper fellow.
Oh my God, I was big on that, being a dapper fellow, and I love being a dapper fellow, and I still really enjoy that. But I feel like my body's changed a bit. COVID weight is a real thing. I've had top surgery also since that time. So things are different. And so I'm just finding my style again. And I don't know what I would say about it right now. I'm not sure I have words for it. I know I will find it. But I think when I find it this time, it's going to be a little more unique. It's going to be a little more there's going to be a lot more custom clothing made. I want to be in my own lane with style. So I'm still exploring that. So I'm not sure what I would say about it. But if there's an event, I will put on a suit at the drop of a hat. I love getting dressed up and stepping out into town and looking hot. So I'm ready for that. I'm always ready for that.
Love outshining the groom at a wedding.
Always. Is what I live for. And I'm glad you said it. I didn't want to say it first, but I do love doing that.
No, I think that's our job as queer people, just to keep the straights in line.
Right. Guys are getting too comfortable. They gotta be like guys.
Can't let them feel superior.
Yeah. Like you gotta step up, guy. Like don't get too comfortable. Like, I'm coming up in the rear here. Be careful.
This is great. Well, how should people who are interested in maybe going on a date with you, how should they reach out to you? What's the best way to get in touch?
Okay, yeah. So I think you can find me on my Instagram, which I think is going to change at some point. But I am using right now Phil _AKA Corin. And that's CORINNE. Yeah, if you send me a message there, you like what you heard, you're like, that Phil sounds interesting, send me a message. That's where you can find me.
And are you looking for New York-based people only? Are you open to long distance?
No, I've done the long distance thing plenty of times. Please be New York-based because I've done the long distance thing. I'm not interested in that. I mean, listen, you can find wonderful people everywhere, but I am looking for ease at this point in my life. I'm 54, for God's sakes, people. I want ease. Be in New York.
Are you also open to people looking for maybe just casual hookups? Or are you looking more for relationship?
Good question. I'm not a casual hookup person. So I'm not saying we have to go, I need to be just with people who are just relationship people, but at least they need to be just like people who are interested in dating. I'm not a casual hookup person. It's just never been me. I often wonder how people can do it, but I'm like, it's just not something that I've been ever good at. So no hookups, please.
All right. Sounds good. Well, Phil, thank you so much. This has been so interesting. I think you're such a catch. So I'm excited for our listeners to either, pitch themselves to you or send their cute femme friends your way.
Thank you so much. This has been so much fun. I really enjoy it. I love what you're doing for the community. This is awesome. I know you also do a live show, so I got to pop into that and check that out at some point.
For sure.
Yeah, this is wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, Phil. So I'm actually already working on trying to set Phil up with a past guest of this podcast. Can you guess who? I mean, everything they said, they give great advice. They're very easy to talk to, very wise, has interesting and good perspectives on things. So check out Phil. Check out Phil's work in podcasting. Some really great stuff there too. And thank you for listening. You can follow me at TGI Carolyn on Instagram. You can follow the pod account to see clips and images at Loves a Pitch. If you want, you can also rate and review on Apple Podcasts. That's always a very nice thing that you can do for me and for the community. Why not? And this podcast is produced and edited by Caitlin White. Music is by Velico. Thank you so much for listening. Now I'm going to go make follow-up plans to hang out with Phil again because last time was so much fun.